Okay, once again, good morning, my dear students. Now we are going to continue the last previous chapter, which we are talking about the man who could work miracles in your alternative list. Okay, so we have discussed about Mr. Fotheringay in the first class. We have discussed that he can perform miracles, and we have discussed that he sent Mr. Wings to San Francisco. So that is the reason why, okay, he started to get very afraid. He started to get very scared, because if Mr. Wings, the police, came back to the place where he stayed, he could get arrested. He could go to prison. That's why he is scared. Mr. Fotheringay is scared, and he was going to church. Okay, he was going to church to pray. So what happens when he go to the church? When he go to the church, he started to meet Mr. Medic, a clergyman, a minister, a religious minister inside the church, who is preaching the words and who is saying something about miracles, who is something about God, who is saying something about God miracles. So that is what Mr. Medic is doing, preaching. So when Mr. Fotheringay heard Mr. Medic's speech, he started to be convinced. He started to get convinced. Okay, convinced, and he started to get impressed because of the things which Mr. Medic said, Mr. Medic preached to the people. So okay, he is thinking, okay, I should go and seek advice to Mr. Fotheringay, Mr. Medic, about Mr. Wings, okay, the constable. I should go and seek advice to him. I should go and ask him how I will do it, and what I will do to get me away from all this trouble. He's already in trouble because he's sending Mr. Wings to San Francisco, and Mr. Wings tried to come back in order to catch him, in order to arrest him. So that is the thing. That is why he is in trouble. Okay, Mr. Fotheringay is in trouble. So soon after the church program is over, Mr. Fotheringay went to Mr. Medic residence. Okay, mansion. Okay, mansion. So since Mr. Medic is a man with personalities, he lives in a big building and a mansion. He also has a mistress known as Mistress Minchin. Okay, Mistress Minchin. Minchin is a housekeeper. Minchin is a housekeeper for Mr. Medic. So when he was going to meet Mr. Medic, when Fotheringay was going to meet Mr. Medic, he was waiting for some time because Mr. Medic has a guest. And after some time, Mr. Medic and Mr. Fotheringay started to come face to face towards each other. And what happens then? Mr. Fotheringay start explaining to Mr. Medic about all the miracles that he can perform. Understand? About all the miracles that he can perform. He said that I can do this, I can do that. If you don't believe me, I can show you in practical, I can show you in action. So he started to convince. He started to impress Mr. Medic that he can work miracles. Understand? Mr. Fotheringay. So what happens? After meeting Mr. Medic and Mr. Fotheringay, he performed miracles. So these are the miracles which he performed to convince Mr. Medic. Why do he want to convince? He want to convince that he can work miracles. Understand? And first of all, what did he do? See, Mr. Medic, I can perform miracles. I can do this, I can do that. I will show you. So he starts showing. He starts showing, and then he starts changing a tobacco pot. Understand? Tobacco pot means where this is a pot. This is something like this. It is a tobacco pot. Understand? So like Mr. Fotheringay start changing tobacco pot into a bowl of flowers. Let there be a bowl of flowers instead of tobacco pot. The pot was changed into bowl of flowers. Okay, bowl of flowers, understand? And what happens? Bowl of flowers, and after that, he started to change. See, Mr. Medic, I can do more. I can do more than this. I can change the bowl of flowers into a bowl of fish. So when he was changing the bowl of flower into tobacco pot into bowl of flowers, Mr. Medic go to the table, which is where the flower is staying, where the flower is placed, and he smelled the flowers. So the flowers was fresh. Okay, it's fresh and it's lively. So what happens? So soon after that, he changed the bowl of flowers into bowl of fish. Okay. So after that, he started changing the bowl of fish into a pigeon. Understand? So Mr. Medic was already surprised by the things which Mr. Fotheringai can do. He was astonished. He don't have any more what to say. He is stunned. He is shocked. Mr. Medic even himself is shocked. Mr. Medic, who is talking about miracles, even himself is shocked for the fact that Mr. Medic can perform, Mr. Fotheringai can perform such miracles. Understand? So he started to show more and more. So he started to change bowl of fish into a pigeon. And at last, what? He brought back the tobacco pipe or tobacco pot, which is for Mr. Medic. So that is the thing. That is what Mr. Medic, Mr. Fotheringai convinced Mr. Medic that he can perform miracles. So after that, he said that, my dear, okay, Fotheringai now start asking questions. What happened? What is the reason why you are coming here? Understand? So when he is asking, he started to tell all about the stories about the long dragon. He is saying that where he's talking about the story in long dragon, he's saying that in the long dragon I did not believe in miracles, but in the long dragon I started to perform miracles, then it happens to be real. So he started to tell all about the story and all about what happens inside his room, what happens and what kind of miracles did he perform, and even for breakfast, what kind of miracles he performed. So he is telling everything which he do to Mr. Fotheringai. Mr. Medic. So the main reason why he went to Mr. Medic is that because of Mr. Wins. So he's talking about Mr. Medic, dear sir, I am coming to you because of Mr. Wings. Okay, to seek an advice. Okay, to seek an advice because of Mr. Wings. Because Mr. Wings is a police constable and I sent him to hell. And after that, I sent him to San Francisco. As he was staying in hell for some time, I believe that his clothes will be torn so light. I am giving him even a new suit to wear also in San Francisco. So I was worried about him. If he start to come back, then he will start to arrest me. He will arrest me. That is what Mr. Fotheringai said to Mr. Medic. So Mr. Medic was also confused. How are we going to solve Mr. Wings? How are we going to solve the case of Mr. Wings? Since you are sending him to hell, since you are sending him to San Francisco, he must be getting angry already. See, so that is what happens. That is the reason why where Mr. Fotheringai go to Mr. Medic, because he is worried about Mr. Wings. He is scared about Mr. Wings and he is scared that he will go to prison when he come back. So when Mr. Wings tried to come back home, he sent him back again. When Mr. Wings tried to come back home, he started to increase the ticket fee or whatever it is. He always do something to take him back to San Francisco, because if Mr. Wings come to Mr. Medic's place or Mr. Fotheringai's place, then Mr. Fotheringai will be sorely caught by Mr. Wings. That is the reason why he keep on sending back when he tries to come back again. So that is it. So in the next, what happens? Let's talk about what happened? Mr. Fotheringay, okay, Mr. Fotheringay is worried as I told you. So Mr. Vedic said, dear sir, you are a precious man. You are a real man. You are a very gifted man, a greatest man. So you don't need to worry about Mr. Wings. Now he starts saying, you don't need to worry about Mr. Wings. Okay, so you don't need to worry about Mr. Wings. We can do something better than that. Okay, so he starts saying, we can do something better than that. You don't need to worry about Mr. Wings. So that is what Mr. Fotheringay is saying to Mr. Meidik is saying to Mr. Fotheringay. And then what happens? After that, after saying that, he started to perform miracles. So they were both of them trying to have a meal. So the meal on the table which they are going to eat is not that good. So he is turning the meal to a nice meal. Okay, Mr. Fotheringay turning the meal to a nice meal which is very tasty, very delicious for Mr. Meidik. So that is the miracle which he performed. And what happened next? What happened next? So he also tell Mr. Fotheringay said that, oh, I can make Mr. Minjing, the housekeeper, looks better, looks more beautiful. I can make her look more beautiful. That is what he is saying. They were discussing on the dining table while Mistress Minjing is sleeping on her room. So after he said that, he start to change Mistress Minjing into a better woman. Understand? He started to change Mr. Minjing into a better woman, and then when they were curious, they are also worried and curious. But when Mr. Meidik go up to the room and check at the sleeping Mistress Minjing, then he noticed that Mistress Minjing is already a better woman and already beautiful. And there Mistress Minjing was sitting and opening a bottle of wine at that moment. So even he have the power, even he have the ability to change a human being into a more beautiful human or more better human. So that is what happens. So now Mr. Fotheringay and Mr. Meidik stays together, and Mr. Meidik start praising Mr. Fotheringay for what he can do. So he can do much more better things. He can do something better than this. He can do something bigger than this. So they started to have the greediness of human being. They started to have the greediness of human being, and now they started to perform miracles together. So what are the miracles that they are trying to perform? The miracles